Welcome to Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast. In this podcast, we delve into the non-clinical aspects of dentistry with inspirational guests from across the profession. You will hear incredible life stories, pick up valuable business tips and be entertained. I'm Andy Acton and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Drevens.
What a brilliant conversation.
It was great, wasn't it? I mean, it was I think what they call a wide-ranging conversation.
Oh, we covered so. I think for me, that whole pay it forward attitude is
brilliant.
So strong. And it started right from the very beginning when she made that phone call.
Yeah.
She made a phone call and it took her life on a completely different course. Yeah. She held onto that envelope and she made a phone call.
Yeah, and if you believed in higher power, there's a higher power.
But what a path and what a journey she's had following that.
What I thought was that one other thing that is an interesting one was self-belief, lost self-belief, regained self-belief. And I, she doesn't know, but it would be interesting to, what's that? What does that happen with a lot of people? And I'm sure it must do. And what is that? Is that an external or an internal thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But also,
brilliant conversation.
It's obviously filtered through to her feeling this urge, this desire to empower other people.
Yeah.
The work she does with kids and with associates who are thinking about setting up a practice, and her desire to share that knowledge
she's so accessible.
Abundant. Yeah.
So accessible.
Yeah, absolutely fabulous.
Brilliant.
If you like this, then you'd be very, very welcome to subscribe. We release new episodes at 7:00 every Monday morning. Yeah. So that would be marvellous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yet again, another new guest.
I'm so excited. I love these things. They are brilliant. It's like chatting to people in the pub or the cafe, depending on whether you drink or not.
I think it's life stories are the thing that get me. I think people quite often go, oh, I have nothing interesting to say.
Really
all people are interested.
Yeah, definitely. If you ask enough questions and shut up, then it's amazing what people will just tell us about themselves. And that's the really interesting thing, is it? It's not dentistry. It's the people behind the businesses or behind what they do. That's what's fascinating to us.
Let's introduce our next guest and then we can shut up.
We can.
So today, ladies and gentlemen, we are so fortunate we have Shabnam Zai joined us. And Shabnam is a dentist, but also the co-founder with Nikita Mehta of Westhouse Dental, a private squat practice in Pinner, Middlesex. Welcome, Shabnam. How are you?
I'm really well. How are you guys?
We are very good. Thank you very much. Even though the weather's a bit pants at the moment, but we're looking out, you see. We look out from our podcast office onto poor weather.
Yes, but it's a great day for us when we do this. Yeah, we're just saying about people are interesting, and I think dentists and dentistry is such a innovative, forward-thinking profession. There's just endless people who are just doing bright, exciting, innovative things, and you firmly fall into that category. I'm going to find out about your career and your practice.
Well, Andy, it's interesting you say that, because one of the things people ask me, why do you like being a dentist? And whilst I enjoy the clinical side of it, it's actually my patients that I love the most, getting to know them. And I've been in one practice for 20 years, and being part of their life, hearing their stories, it's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity to be part of someone's life.
I think
talking and working, what an ideal combo.
But I think at a deep level, we as humans, we love connections, community, and I think we do form in tribes. And I think tribes can be lots of different things. And I think working with patients over decades and getting to know them, isn't it? Yeah, it's nice. So let's go right back to the beginning. What was your childhood like? Where did you get brought up? Siblings, parents? I always think it really gives a good insight as to kind of what you've become, if we understand a little bit about your beginnings.
Was it round Pinner?
Yes.
Or was it somewhere else?
It wasn't. So I'm a London girl, a West London girl. I was born and brought up in Ealing.
Okay.
And had a great childhood, really, really had fun. When I was 9, I remember this day. I went to the park with my friends. My mum and dad went to a wedding, and I was at the park, and I was on a seesaw, and they gave me the bumps, and unfortunately they bumped me a bit too hard. I flipped, and I actually broke my front 2 teeth. So at the age of 9, I was that child that had the trauma. Yeah. So going back, maybe that's why I did dentistry. You never know. And that was quite a traumatic experience, but I had an amazing dentist who fixed my smile, few months after that, sadly, my dad passed away. So I was pretty much brought up by my mum, and I've got an older brother. He was always a bit of a car fanatic, so I know a lot about cars. And, when it comes to my household, I'm the one that changes the oil and fixes the car and sorts it out.
Oh, wow, brilliant.
I'm very, very hands-on. And as a child, we were... we had a simple life. So I kind of helped my mum decorate the house. I wallpapered, I fixed the plumbing. I realized from a young age, I like fixing things.
Was that also impacted by the loss of your father at a young age as well? Did you kind of have to grow up a bit quicker than you might have?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. So my mum and dad always did things themselves. I think when my dad moved to the country, they were born in India. They grew up in Yemen. They got married to Africa. My brother was born in Zambia, and then they moved to England. And when my dad came to England, he had quite a lot of money with him. He made a massive investment, probably equivalent to about £1 million in today's terms, and he lost it. He got swindled. So then he went from having so much to having so little. So I remember having lodgers when I was younger in the house and having to make do with what we could.
And was your father self-made as well? Did he make that money himself?
Yeah, so he did lots of different jobs. He actually lived for a short while in Switzerland and was a watchmaker. And then when he was in Africa, he was an accountant. When he went
fascinating life.
How did you go from an accountant to a watchmaker?
Yeah. So he just did whatever he wanted, and he learned German. Very. It's
an eclectic sort of mix.
At that time, especially from our community. So he just always did things. And I remember my mum and dad building a wall in my back garden, and that wall is still there. And it's really nice. I think we've always been a bit of a hands-on family.
So anyway, I'm more interested in cars now. So have you got like a super nice car or like a sporty car or an old classic car?
I've got a Honda Civic at the moment, but if you ask me about the mechanics, so my brother, he's an engineer. He designs cars. He does the chassis and he does all the AutoCAD designs. So I know a lot about the engineering side of things, which is...
So do you have an aspirational car that you would like? Yeah, I want one of them.
I've always wanted a Maserati, actually. I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah. Had one of those. Very nice. Breakdown, but apart from that, it was all right. Quite a few times.
They're not the most reliable.
No.
From what you said, it sounds like there's quite an entrepreneurial flair in your family. With your brother and
there is, Andy,
and your
at
dad.
The same time, quite the opposite, because when my dad did pass away, he didn't have a will. So suddenly overnight, we couldn't even access the life insurance or policies that my dad did have. And it was really hard for my mum at that time to manage everything on her own. And I think we all became a bit financially risk averse. We ended up saving more, being a bit more cautious, a bit more careful. So I've kind of always had this desire to own a business, but at the same time, I'm incredibly financially risk averse. I kind of wanted to do lots of things and tried, but didn't, and always held myself back a little bit.
And when you say tried but didn't, did you kind of just not throw yourself into it completely?
And can I also ask, what did you think about trying but not doing?
So, for example, buying a property, I looked at many properties.
As a buy-to-let sort of thing? As
a buy-to-let, as an investment. And a house was pretty much too much for me. But my mum Indians, we always say buy a house, don't buy a flat. And you get the freehold. And so I'd get really far down the process. But then when it came to the very end, it never quite happened. I'd kind of do 80%, but never actually quite do it. And I was a squirrel, and I saved and saved and saved. And I had a massive deposit, which I use now for my family home. So it has been invested. But when I think about now, being a dentist for 20 years, if I had invested in 2007 in that house, my financial
what would it be worth now?
Be very different now, yeah. So it's very easy to look back and regret on things. And I tell people all the time, I only regret the things I never did. So I think now I'm just like, go for it.
It's like catching hindsight, they say. Catching hindsight's great. We can all get back.
I think hindsight's a foresight of the gobshite. So I wouldn't duff yourself up over it, because you can't. At that time, you made the right decision.
I'd have never sold any of my houses. I'd have turned them all into buy-to-lets, and I'd never sold any of my cars, and I'd have kept them as classics. However, at that time, I didn't have the inspiration, the courage, or the money.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, isn't it? It just has to fall together.
Yeah. But as a profession, we nearly didn't get you, did we? Because you were on the cusp of studying chemistry at Imperial.
Yeah.
And then interesting, you say that it just didn't feel right. And that's obviously a gut instinct. And are you quite led by your gut? Is that something that's quite strong in how you make decisions?
Yeah, very much so. It's something that I've gone back to. I think it's something I had very strong when I was younger. And then in my 20s, I lost it slightly because I started listening more to other people, thinking I didn't know enough. I should listen to others. I should get their advice. And I lost it a little bit. But now having my own practice, even when we were building the practice, there were so many decisions that the other people were advising us about. And Nikita and I just went, no, we want to do it this way.
Yeah.
And we've just realized that when we are authentic to how we feel, we just get a much better outcome. Yes, if we did it another way, we would make it work. But it just works so much better. And I really didn't want to do dentistry. I never thought about becoming a dentist. I was actually a very average student. I was in grade 3 for maths, which nobody ever believes. My maths teacher told me that I was stupid and I'd never do well. And,
that's motivational. Great teaching skill, that.
Yeah, and she's the one that actually gave me my GCSE results and I got an A. So maybe that motivated me. And yeah, I really love chemistry. Really, really loved it. Even now in my practice, I've got a mug with the periodic table on it. So it's still a passion of mine. And I did the open day. I did everything. I filled out my UCAS form. I was just about to post it. I was outside my school and the envelope in my hand, I was putting it through the letterbox.
You got
and
that close?
For some reason, I couldn't let go and I took it back out again.
Wow.
And I did better than expected in my exams. And I thought actually maybe I could try and do something a bit different, try something that I didn't have the opportunity to consider before. And I thought if I was going to be a chemist, most people thought I was going to be a teacher when I was younger, but I'd probably go into research and create a new element called Shabnamium. But that sounded quite lonely to me, and I'm quite a people person. I thought, what could I do that's scientific and with people? And I looked through the UCAS book. There was this big yellow pages, and I flicked through it, and I saw different professions. I never thought about being a doctor. And I went to the payphone outside my school, and I rang my dentist up. I rang him, and he kindly spoke to me. And I just told him, I said, I'm really confused. I'm not sure what to do. And he said, look, are you free? Why don't you come over now? Wow. And I got the bus from Greenford to Ealing. I know, in my school uniform. And I went to his clinic.
Amazing.
I stood in the corner. And this lady came in and she had her hand over her mouth and she'd been crying. She'd fallen and broken her teeth. And then over the next hour...
Which you know what that felt like as a young child as well.
Yeah, and over the next hour, I saw him rebuild her smile and she left smiling. And I just went, can I come back next week? And on the way home, I rewrote my personal statement.
Flip.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was funny because all my teachers told me not to apply. Because they said,
it's a ballsy move, isn't it? I mean, to just ring up for a start. Hey, I'm going to ring the dentist, and then to get off your to actually go to the place, and then also it's a great thing that the dentist said, yeah, come and have a chat. I mean, it's
so many
stars aligning.
There's so many things.
Isn't it?
I also love that thing you said about the courage of your convictions, and I think it's so easy to take advice from everybody, which means you then end up with a blended and confusing view of what to do. Whereas between you and Nikita kind of having this view of this is what we're going to do and we're going to go for it. Okay, it may not be perfect, but it's going to be our way of doing things. Wow. And I think in society, there's so many advisors and coaches and consultants. And I think in many ways, it almost confuses people as opposed to streamlines it. And I think to have that vision that you had to get you to where you wanted to be is great. But I find it fascinating that you were literally holding your envelope in the post box and you didn't let go of it.
Out again, yeah.
But that gut instinct, and then obviously for somebody who lived in Ealing, you did the obvious thing and went to dental school in Newcastle. Which is quite a long way from home, isn't it?
I'm a London girl. I really wanted to stay in London. And my dream was to stay in London. And the only reason I wrote Newcastle is because my dentist, I did work experience with, went there. And his name's Subir Banerjee. I don't know, some of your listeners may know.
Oh, wow, yes.
Yeah, really, really
very well known. Very well known.
So I just put it down for that reason, just to fill a space. And I was really lucky. I applied very late. I applied in December, and all my teachers told me not to bother, but I continued, and I got 4 interviews and I got 4 offers. So I was in a really privileged position to have been offered all the London universities. And what defined it for me was when I went for my interview, I went and had the tour, I had the conversation. My mum's got quite bad arthritis, so she can't really walk very much. So I left her in some common room and said, I'll be back in a couple of hours. And when I came back to meet her, I was telling her about everything. I said, you won't guess what's on the 5th floor. And she's like, the plastic heads. And I was like, how do you know there's plastic heads on the 5th floor? And she said, I was sitting here. Some students saw me and asked me why I was here. And I explained I was waiting for you. So while I was here, they said, would you like to see the university? So they took my hobbling mum to the 5th floor, showed her the Phantom Headroom, brought her back down and gave her a cup of tea. And I went, this is my kind of place.
Yeah, you're in the right place.
Wow, that's amazing,
if they're treating your mum like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was dental school like for you? Was it an enjoyable experience?
Amazing. It's such a good university in Newcastle. I had so much clinical experience. There was always opportunities to do more. So I left university feeling very, very confident in my clinical skills. I did an exchange in Helsinki for a semester. So in 4th year, I lived in Helsinki, and pretty much when I arrived there, the dean of the dental school said, "You're here to make friends and have fun. See you later."
Oh, wow.
And was he right?
It made me realise that I could do dentistry anywhere in the world. And that was amazing. And then I also travelled around China, Tibet and Nepal, did some dentistry over there, all while I was undergrad. So they gave us great opportunities.
That is amazing.
I think the remarkable thing is, you look incredibly young for your age, but the time. No, but you do.
20 years.
But that's the point. People, if they're watching this, won't believe that you qualified so many years ago.
That she's 52.
But the point is that you talk about, I got lots of really great clinical experience and I came out feeling very competent. We talked to lots of younger dentists, and I think that's something that has definitely shifted over the years, and people now are incredibly good at admin, but perhaps don't necessarily get the clinical experience that they'd like.
We've heard,
which is why when they go through their foundation year, that's when they're really honing things that they've perhaps had the theory of or watched, but not done with a drill in their hand.
Yeah. I was a VT trainer for many years for therapists and dentists, and there is this. You need to be in a supportive environment in those first few years to get to the confidence. But I think there is still opportunity. I had some time when I was free, I'd speak to consultants saying, when you're doing this, can you call me? I actively looked out for those opportunities and tried to do extra things.
I love the very relaxed sort of, you got this sort of, I'm not really an entrepreneur and I'm sort of laid back a bit. But the answer is I love it. The fact of you are, even in the stories we've had, you're always putting yourself in a place which is almost of uncomfortableness, sort of almost unconsciously uncomfortableness, taking their letter out, ringing someone up, going to visit,
Helsinki.
replying late, go to Helsinki. It's a brilliant story in the fact of, it's just sort of like normal. It's not normal. From the people we've spoken to, I can tell you it's not normal, Shabnam.
No, not at all. Not at all. So you were an associate for a good number of years, and then obviously this urge to set up a practice took over. Talk us through your kind of associate life up to that point when you decided that there was something more for you down the track.
So I currently still work in my VT practice. I love it. It's my home. It's my dream always to own this practice. And when I started here, the principal said that in 5 years' time, he was thinking about selling. So that obviously was very interesting to me. And it's such an ethical practice. Like for an NHS practice, I'd have half an hour checkups for adults, I'd have 15-minute checkups for children. I didn't have any restrictions on how I could work clinically. And it was all about doing the best thing for the patient. So clinically, I had a really great opportunity to build my clinical skills, like wet-handed dentistry, and it's a very high-need area. It's in Slough, so the mouths I get are very, very neglected. And 5 years came and went. I really skilled up. I had a friend who did VT with me. His name is Mahmoud Malji, And he is very driven, and he was like, Shabs, come on this course with me, So he made me do Invisalign, he made me go to Newton File and Sanjay Sethi. We did Korai's implant course. We skilled up very early on. We actually went to a study group called Dentology, which is like yours, but on Harley Street. And I remember sitting there in Fazila Osborne Khan's practice, looking at her.
Fazila, flip.
I'm a terrible dentist. But it kind of made me realize how great dentistry can be and how beautiful it can be. And then 10 years later, my principal still wasn't in a position to sell. And I asked if I could become a partner, if I could, transition into that, and that opportunity wasn't there. I then by this point had got married. I'd moved to Battersea, so I was living in South London but commuting to Slough, and I did an implant course with Korai, and he kindly offered me a job in Wimpole Street. So it was quite a extreme. So one minute I'm doing NHS checkups on exempt patients, and the next day I'm charging £400 for an examination on Wimpole Street. So it was, but then I realized that the way I treat my patients is really much the same. And so I always had this desire to have a practice, but I was always really risk averse, financially risk averse, felt I didn't have enough confidence, I wasn't going to be able to do it. And then what really changed was I had my daughter. And when you have a child, you want your child to kind of live their dreams, you kind of like, I want them to live their dreams. And I realized that I wasn't living my dream, and I wasn't being such a good role model for her. And at that particular time, I met Nikita, and we started investigating the idea of buying a dental practice. And we looked for 5 years, and you guys showed us so many wonderful places. But for whatever reason, over those 5 years, it didn't work out. And we were quite limited. We were quite limited on our location and things like our budget. So we tried and it just didn't happen. And all the while we were still working as associates and enjoying our clinical life. And we knew that we were good associates. We built goodwill in the practice.
Just in terms of timing, Shabnam, when was this? What sort of time period are we talking about when you got together with Nikita and you started looking for practices?
Yeah, to buy a practice about 10 years ago. So 10 years after qualifying. And then we looked for 5 years. And then Nikita's husband said, why don't you build your own practice? And we're like, we don't know how to build a practice. And he's like, you guys are quite, good at dentistry. I'm sure you can do a good job at running a business. I was like, okay. And he started looking for D1 planning permission, places with D1 planning permission. And I remember Nikita was 9 months pregnant, first day of maternity leave. She was due to have the baby on Thursday, and this is a Monday. And her husband rings her saying, can you go see this place? She really didn't want to go. And she waddled up the stairs with her big tummy. And it was in a park, in a historic building above a cafe. It was 1,200 square feet. It was perfect for a 3-surgery practice. She took a video walking around and rang me straight away and said, this is it. And what do you do when you've got 4 kids under 4 between the two of us, and your dream practice comes up? You just kind of have to take it. So we did. We went for it, and that's when I realised I didn't know anything about setting up a practice. There was nothing out there at all. I went to the showcase, and I remember just having this panicked list. Nikita had given birth the day before. I'm at the showcase now, trying to find a solicitor, trying to figure out how to get the loans, an accountant, builders, equipment. I didn't even know what I needed to set up a practice. I hadn't even thought about compliance or CQC or anything. And it was really overwhelming, and it was a really difficult process. And then what happened is we didn't get the lease. We didn't get the lease because someone outbid us by 15 grand. And I told Nikita, I said, I really felt like it was mine, like it was ours, like I felt it. And she said, by the end of this year, we're going to have a practice. And I thought it was just the hormones of having a baby, talking then. And literally October that year, we called the agent up and he said, oh, that place you like, it's back on the market. And then we just jumped straight in. And by that point, we had seen so many other places and realized how special the park in Pinner was, that we just jumped both feet in. No
It's
regret.
interesting you say about your daughter. So up to that point, you'd perhaps passed over opportunities or not followed things through for not being entrepreneurial and quite risk averse. Was it quite a shocking moment when it dawned on you that you're going to need to start living the life you really want to live to show to your daughter what the art of the possible is? Or was that something that kind of grew and built with you over a period of time? Because to buy practice is an incredible thing to do. To set a practice up from squat is
challenging.
Yeah, it's the realm of the few. We talk to lots of people, and it's incredible how many people we talk to who think it's a really good idea, but the amount that actually follow through and do it are quite few. So for you to go from being somebody who's quite risk averse, was it the support of having Nikita with you in that there was a partner? Was it the support of your respective families? Was it the daughter? What was it kind of? Does it come down to one element, or was there a change inside of you?
Yeah, I think it was a gradual change. I generally lacked in self-belief, and I didn't take financial risks. But I married well. I have a great husband, and he just, whenever I want to do anything, he's like, just go for it. And he just has so much faith in me that it kind of made me have a bit of faith in myself. And also Nikita gave me the confidence that she could see us doing this, and I trust her so much that I believed her. So in that moment, I didn't believe myself, but I believed that she believed in me, if that makes sense.
It's great, the all things for a purpose, isn't it? Going back, your all things for, we talked about the envelope, ringing up, blah, blah, blah. But also, in a way, the fact that you saw it, excited about it, did all that prep about actually, panicking about not being able to find, what do I need to do? And then losing it, but then reclaiming it. In a way, that was so beneficial by the sounds of things, because when it then really truly came, you were a bit cooler about it because you'd already done probably quite a lot of the work you weren't freaking out quite as much. Does that make sense?
I didn't know what I didn't know. So we kind of had some stuff in place that we thought we might need, but we literally didn't have a clue still. And actually, I tell people the amount of hours I wasted research. There's not one place you can go that tells you everything you need for a practice. To the point where, how many trays do you buy? How many hand pieces do you need? We had to think. There was a thing called decision fatigue. We just got so tired of making decisions because we just had to think all the time about every little thing. And now, in retrospect, that is such a nicer way of approaching it. And I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone that'd been through it. I really wish I had someone that I could just talk to.
I suppose thinking about the minutiae, isn't it? How many hand pieces do you need?
Yeah.
How many, I hadn't really thought about it from that point of view, because we talk to people, you need to spend this much money, but that's the real practical bit, isn't it?
Everyone asks, how long does it take to build? How much does it cost? Where do you get your equipment from? Who is your builders? They're the questions you ask. And actually, that's not really that important. That stuff will just happen. It's all the other stuff that you don't know about. The values, the kind of practice you want to create, because those values and your vision is what creates your team. That defines who you recruit. That's the kind of services you provide. That dictates the location you pick. That's actually the true nub of actually designing a practice. Is really.
And did you do that thinking before? Because your space, and for anybody listening to this, you should definitely jump on the website. It's Westhouse Dental, the dental practice in Pinner, and look at the website. There's some beautiful pictures of the setting. But had you done the thinking around what you wanted, the culture, the values, the patient experience to be, and then this location fitted it? Or did you see the location and just go, we can turn this into something incredible? Was it kind of chicken or egg?
So Nikita and I, when we were thinking of setting up a practice, we had a cup of tea in Morrison's and we had a bit of paper, and we just wrote down a list of the things that we wanted from our practice. And most of the things were, we wanted to probably be about a 3-surgery practice because we didn't want to have a beast. We didn't want a chain or a corporate. We wanted it to be within half an hour from our home. We wanted it to be a private practice. We even divvied up what kind of treatments we'd do. So I'd do the dentures and the root canals, and she'd do the veneers, and we literally broke it down. I said, I'll do compliance. She said she'd do accounts. We really divvied up the job. So before we'd even got into the whole process as a partnership, we'd clarified and got a lot of transparency of what we were expecting from each other. And I am quite a calm person. I treat a lot of nervous patients, and the park really lends itself to mine and Nikita's temperament, in the sense that it's our practice doesn't look like a dental practice. Everyone comes in saying it doesn't look like a dental practice. And that's actually what we want. That's the biggest compliment. It looks like an apartment. You're coming to my home. But we don't want to have like banners of Invisalign and implants. We just want our patients to feel comfortable. We want them to feel calm. We want them to feel looked after and to really give them that level of service that I like. People always say they want to treat their patients like their family. I actually do treat all my patients like their family. And now I've got the environment as well. So I'm really, I pinch myself actually. The amount of times, Andy, I go into my practice and I walk in and I look around and I still can't believe it's mine.
Lovely.
It almost seems too good to be true.
Out of interest, Shabnam, did you, if you looked at your new patients, did you attract new patients to dentistry and patients from other practices, or was it all really new patients to dentistry because of the location and the way you did it?
Yeah, so initially with the squat, nobody knew me in Pinner. So in all my other jobs, I was chock-a-block, refusing new patients. I can't take any more on. I'm too booked. I can't see more. And then I'd open up my doors and I was happy if I had one patient a day. And a lot of the patients I saw initially were emergencies. So they were in pain and they needed help, and then they became patients, and then they started recommending, and that's how it started. And also we relied really heavily on friends and family to support us at the beginning of any business. But that only lasts for so long. For me, having patients recommend through word of mouth is definitely the best way of getting patients. Some of them were new. I had a patient the other day, he's not been to the dentist for 25 years. So he's not technically a new patient, but he's not been for a long time.
Yeah.
And just seeing him when he left the appointment, made me so happy, because he was so fearful when he came in. And when he left out, he said, "I can't believe I was putting this off for so long." And I took a picture.
What a gift for you to have in terms of changing someone's view of.
I was going to say, it sort of goes back to that first. I think sometimes dentists do sort of forget.
Incredible.
That first meeting with the dentist that you went and saw, and woman had smashed her teeth, which was similar to yours, and he was able to restore her confidence and her smile. And I think, I don't know, but I sort of feel sometimes dentists do forget how flipping amazing what you do is, and how you can truly change people's lives.
Yeah, and Nikita and I are both similar in the sense that we don't just fix teeth. We're not a one-tooth dentistry. We always look at the patient, and sometimes it can be giving them advice on their general life, because I end up coaching them a little bit. And even to the point where I had a patient who was doing a degree in motorsports, and he was over here for a while, and I was like, "Oh, I know a dentist that races, Shiraz Khan."
Oh, Shiraz.
So let me introduce you to him. And then the following weekend, he was with Shiraz's team in the pit stops at Bran Hatch at a Porsche day. So and I always like trying to help my children get good work experience, because where I work in Slough particularly, it's a very deprived area. A lot of the kids here haven't had anyone in their family that's even gone to university. So when they're aspiring to do dentistry or things like that, they don't have any opportunities to do work experience. So in this practice, I know we've probably got at least 200 kids into medicine and dentistry, and that's not including the other subjects. And then we do mock interviews. We help them write their personal statement.
Really?
When you give someone that opportunity, and then you see how it elevates the whole family.
Yeah.
But you're a byproduct of that, aren't you? When you rang Sabir Banerjee and Sabir said, "Come down and see me," we wouldn't have you in the profession. Possibly, you might have dropped that envelope in, and you'd be doing chemistry at Imperial, or you'd be sitting in a lab somewhere coming up with shabnimium. But that's the truth, isn't it? Sabir does that, and obviously it had such an impact on you and your life and your career and your family. What a lovely thing to then pass that forward and pass that down to other people.
Like a community hub almost. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Honestly, it's such a privilege to be able to do that. And I was from a single parent family. I had no family here that had been to university. I didn't even prep for my first interview. I remember I went to Queen Mary's, and I totally fluffed the interview. I just hadn't prepared. Even when they asked me, "Why do you want to do dentistry?" I hadn't even prepared that answer well. And I just came out feeling so disappointed in myself. And I was very, very lucky that I had other interviews offered. But some people nowadays only get one interview. And if you mess it up, You really got to take the opportunity. So I actually still did. I got offered a place. I don't know how.
I was going to say, did you get offered a place? I was going to say, yeah.
My interviews were maybe things have changed now, but even when I went to Manchester, so I love photography. My dad loved photography, so I love photography. I got a camera when I was 9, and I've had 2 things in my bag since childhood. One is a kite, and one is a camera. Because when the wind's good, I want to fly a kite because I love flying a kite. And with photography, I remember going to Manchester, and when I arrived...
It's random.
I know, it's random, yeah. My husband's like, why are we going to a park? And I said, I want to fly my kite. And I went to Manchester, and I went to the interview, and he said, oh, how was your journey? And I said, oh, it was really good. I wish I brought my camera. And he's like, why? And he's like, oh, you've got amazing red brick buildings here. This is before the IRA bombed. And I started explaining how I develop film in the darkroom, and I do photographs. And then you hear this knock on the door, and he just looked at me and he said, why do you want to do dentistry? And I went, and I just answered. We spent the entire interview talking about photography. Yeah, it's interesting how your passions can kind of still enable you to get a place in dentistry.
Yeah.
You've obviously done a lot with your clinical career, moving around lots of different practices, exposure to a real kind of diverse range of patients, from the deprived area of Slough to the very high-end private West End. Moving away from that side of things onto the business side, you've obviously founded a dental practice. What's the myth that people don't know about setting up a dental practice? Yeah, everybody kind of sees the success you're having now, but what's the thing that kind of you've taken from this process? What's the most
easy, isn't
thing?
it, to set up a practice? Really easy.
Exactly.
Just everyone can do it.
But the thing is, people only get to see and hear about the successful ones.
Definitely.
But what are the hard yards you have to go through to get to where you are?
The hard yard. So you need to have a clear vision of what you're trying to achieve. Because when you've got a good purpose and you know what you're trying to achieve, it makes it much easier. It's incredibly hard work running a practice, and opening a squat just before Brexit and COVID was not great timing. But we survived. And if anything, it's shown Nikita and I that we can pivot, that if we can live through that, we can manage anything. I've realized how adaptable I am, how calm I am. Like in a crisis, I'm incredibly calm. So I think being calm and making quick decisions. In the past, I used to dither and think and want to pick the best thing, and I just had to decide that I had to make a decision.
Need to commit.
In business, if you take too long to just making no decision is going backwards. Even if you pick the wrong thing, it doesn't matter, as long as you're kind of making decisions and moving forward.
Analysis,
and I think you need to have a bit of self-belief, like in yourself. I don't know why I didn't have it, because I'd had it before and I lost it at some point. So really have a good community around you, good people, mentors that you can lean on. What else can you do to make a good practice? Be prepared. Like I show people how I did it, because I wish I had someone to help me. So I'm always speaking to dentists all the time, whether they want clinical advice or whether they want what courses should I go on, from BTs to more experienced. And I believe in our dental community that we have so many amazing clinicians. We can help each other so much. And you have this podcast, so you're educating and you're helping. And I think it comes in many different ways. There's not one. I can't think of one particular thing.
I'll tell you what's interesting.
Lots and lots of hard work.
I wonder if you've ever tried to unpack it, but it's quite interesting. The self-belief thing. You had it, you lost it, you regained it. It would be interesting to know how you lost it. Do you know what I mean? Or how it sort of went and dissipated. Was it external or internal?
Yeah.
I'm not asking for an answer, but I'm just saying it's an interesting reflection as to whether. So I was really confident and believed in myself. Then somehow I forgot about that bit, and then I've regained it. It's quite fascinating, I think.
Would you have? Do you think you would have done this on your own? Did you need Nikita, and did Nikita need you for you to make this fly? Is it something that you would have got there on your own if you'd needed to?
I wouldn't have enjoyed it much. I probably could have. Realistically, I could have. I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much.
The shared experience is quite powerful.
Yeah, and also I work better with people. I know that about myself, and I need someone to bounce ideas off. And both Nikita and I bring different things to the partnership. And I quite like that she compliments me, but at the same time, our values are very, very aligned. Like, we are all about integrity, ethical dentistry. Like, our values are so aligned, our ethos is so strong that we knew no matter what happened to the practice, we would always come up with kind of similar decisions because we were so aligned. And we've also made a plan for if we don't agree, what to do then as well. It hasn't happened yet.
I think it's very important.
Yeah.
And I think in partnerships of two, I think you're right. I think because, as you said about decision making, it's better to make a decision and be wrong and then change your decision than make no decision. And I think in partnerships of two, that can stymie things in that it's easy to get to a point where you get a stalemate, where you just don't make a decision. And that's not good, for either of the partners involved. It's not good for the business and for the team as well. It can be quite a frustrating environment to work in. So what's your process then if you get to a stalemate?
So we have a team meeting with our other halves as well. And sometimes we have to just do what's best for the practice. We haven't had a situation yet. So I think we both respect each other so much that, like I say, we just have to make a decision sometimes. And it may not be 100% what I want or 100% what she wants, but for the best of the business and the partnership, we would sometimes just make a decision. But I'm really lucky because Nikita's like my best friend. And I'll be honest, I was a bit worried about going into business with her because I didn't want to spoil that friendship because our families are so close. And I'm so lucky that it hasn't. If anything, it just makes going into work a bit more fun because you just hang out with your best friend all the time. And there's tough times and she keeps me to account. Like, she doesn't let me get away with stuff. But at the same time, she knows when I'm struggling and she will take some stuff off me and vice versa. I'm a bit of a workaholic, and last year she just booked annual leave for me. She's like, "You're making me feel guilty about taking holidays." So she booked annual leave for me in my diary.
Wow.
Even if you just don't go anywhere, just don't come to work. We're not going to mess
have some
with you.
time
You're
off.
just gonna have a week off. Yeah, so she really looks after me.
That's great.
That's really cool.
Very caring.
That's really
That's
cool.
very caring.
And as a result of the process you've been through, you now support other dentists looking to go through the process themselves, isn't it? Because like you were saying about, how many hand pieces do you need? Those kind of small nitty gritty things. It's easy for everyone to say, it's all about location and, find a builder. And you're right. Sometimes
Big bits.
putting in place the building blocks isn't that difficult. It's often the glue. It's the small bits in between. So what does that kind of look like in terms of your support to dentists?
Yeah, so some people are naturally risk averse. They don't like taking financial risks. They lack in self-belief. They wouldn't even think or try to think it's possible that they could build a practice. But they just wouldn't even know where to start, which is how I was. But I want people to know that was me. Yeah. That was me, and I am proof that it's possible. So if I did it, anyone can do it. I really mean that. I still can't believe I've done it, but I really wish I had someone to help and guide me. And basically anyone that I work with, I just promise to give them everything. So I give them my business plan. I show them my cash flow forecast. I've created checklists for everything, all the equipment I bought for the practice. And I also, I'm doing a course at the moment. So I have an online course of how to set up your own dream practice. And I have exercises to do while you're an associate, because I think you can learn so much from the current practices you're working in. Things that you just turn up and assume it's just working, but somebody's implemented that. That is a process and a protocol. And if you learn that then, and you have that information, it's so helpful. Like, even how high your cabinetry is, like how high do you want your work surface to be? You can decide that, and it's centimeters, but actually for your ergonomic, for your workflow, there must be a room in your clinic that you like working in. I remember getting asked, how much distance do you want from the head of the chair to your cabinetry? And I was like, I don't know. How much space do I need? And, you don't want to keep bumping into the cupboards. And there's all these little tiny questions that I got asked and I didn't know. And then Nikita and I both had to find out the answers whilst we're trying to get a loan, whilst we're trying to get builders, while we're trying to get the lease, and while we're trying to negotiate the heads of terms, all this stuff. And then after all that, we still made massive blunders. With our lease, for example, we just jumped in both feet, as I told you. We just said, we'll take it, that price, we'll take it. And they said it was exclusive. I was like, okay, that's just a marketing term to say it's special. And it wasn't. It meant that VAT wasn't included in the price. So when we actually got to sign the
I
contract,
see. Right.
the rent didn't include VAT.
So
And then
exclusive
when we
of
saw the
VAT.
figure,
Right.
we were like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's VAT, but you can claim that back. And I was like, no, we can't. We're medical. And they didn't know that. We didn't know that. And they were literally everything, keys in hand, going, what are we going to do?
Well, actually, that's a 20%, isn't it, right there?
That's a massive miscalculation to make on your first day.
Yeah.
So I tell people about all the mistakes we had, all the problems we had, all the things that they should check for early on to not waste their time. So sometimes, for example, if you need to do structural work to the building, get permission from the landlord early. If they say no, there's no point investigating that place for a dental practice, because if they're not willing to give you more than 5 years on a lease, it's not worth proceeding with that. Because I remember we had a bit of issue with that as well. They only wanted to give us 5 years. I actually had to show them the loans and the paperwork. And I said, I'm spending hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
I can't move this in 5 years because it's bespoke. And it's not even what you see, it's all the internal connections and things. And then we were really lucky that we had an opportunity to speak to the landlords or the trust, because it's not owned by anyone. And in the end, they gave us a 30-year lease.
Oh,
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Makes your investment recoverable then, doesn't it? For sure.
I'll tell you what would be really useful if perhaps you could send us a link. We'll drop that in the show notes for people that would want more details on that. Because for many, it's such a big...
connect with me on Instagram, I've got like a 5 steps of how to set up a practice. You know, if someone doesn't want to, if they're not ready to have it, I don't even mind having a phone call. I don't mind giving people advice, because all my career, people have helped me. So I'm really open to kind of helping anyone any way I can.
You might need to book it. Might need to set up a Calendly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I've got a feeling you might be overrun with lots of people.
It's a lovely approach though, because in very early on for you, as we've talked about, you know, there are certain people that kind of held their hand out to you. I think it's lovely that you're now doing that based on your own experience with other people.
Is that thing pay it back or pay it forward? Pay it forward? You're doing the same thing.
Well, we have this thing about dentistry as an ecosystem. It's all joined up, you know, and whilst we don't necessarily know the people that we're helping, if everybody keeps doing the right thing, it does make the profession stronger. And it is a great profession. And managed well, it is relatively low risk from a financial point of view. It is relatively low risk, which is why the banks and others are so keen to support the profession, because relative to other professions and industries, it is very low risk. However, if someone's walked a path before you, and somebody like you who's sharing that information, there's a phrase, isn't there, learn from your mistakes. And I think a much better one is learn from somebody else's mistakes.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what you're offering.
I love being a dentist. Like, I really love being a dentist. I knew nothing about running a practice at all. Like, business side of dentistry just doesn't exist. I have to say thanks to you guys, actually, because one of the few bits of information we did find on the spot was a seminar that Nikita went to by Frank Taylor, and it was like 2 sheets of A4. There was only about 5 points on it, but those 5 points were the things I ran to the showcase with. So at least I had that.
Phew, excellent. There we go. Look at that.
But
yeah, you get information from different ways, and if you can definitely give back, it's always nice too.
So just bring us up to date, just to finish off. You're 5 years in.
Pages releases.
Are the 3 surgeries all up and running? What sort of size team have you got? What are the services you offer your patients?
Yeah, so we planned the practice to be 3 surgeries from the start, but we didn't install all 3.
Yep.
We've got all the plumbing in. So we started with 1 chair, and we wanted 2, but then we also wanted the really nice chair and the really nice cabinetry. So we went for that. So we did 1, and then we installed the 2nd chair during COVID. So despite having no income, we just pushed ahead and carried on with our project to grow. So we're currently at 2 surgeries. We have 3 general dentists. I have potentially 2 orthodontists. One's joining us. 2 hygienists, someone that does oral surgery, someone that does root canal. So I've grown the practice to really serve my patients. And as I've been in the practice, I've realized what my patients need. And as I know what they need, I'm providing more of that care for them. And all kind of within the umbrella of mine and Nikita's ethos, which is really looking after the patient, not cutting corners, and giving them really, really good service and a lovely patient journey. When people say they hate going to the dentist, it makes me even more determined to make them like it.
Yes. I love that concept of extending your services based on patient need as well. rather than just kind of saying, we're now doing this, do you want one? You're looking at what the needs of your patient are and then bringing in specialists and other services to make sure you can provide the broadest range of care.
Makes sense,
That's
doesn't it?
And also we get an opportunity to mentor. So I love mentoring. I've been a VT trainer. And so we get associates that want to grow, and then we help them. And I'm teaching them the business skills that I wish I'd been taught early on. And they may not fully appreciate it while they're working with us, but I make them create open days. I make them do their own open day posters. I get them designing things, thinking about the wording on things, and,
that's good.
Visiting other practices, and they just will build that skill set. So hopefully when they get an opportunity, they'll be able to do it more confidently.
Like a little incubator. Yeah. I imagine you'll probably be losing some people in the future because you'll train them so well and they'll have such confidence. They'll go and fly for themselves. Yeah.
So so many of my nurses have become dentists, hygienists. So I never feel we should contain anyone. When I see someone's potential, like I was a very average student and someone gave me the opportunity to try and pushed me. I like to encourage people to try if they want. I can't push someone that doesn't want to do it, even if they are capable. So I do lose a lot of good nurses. In fact, I've got a nurse with me today, and she wants to be a therapist, and I'm like, why don't you just apply for dentistry? I can do dentistry. So making her dream a bit bigger, because I think sometimes we don't think
exactly. Yeah, putting some wind under their wings.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Shabnam, it's been a fascinating story. I think your energy is just so good. You're so enthusiastic about your own career, your practice, but the profession. And the profession is definitely better for you holding on to that envelope. I'm very grateful that you didn't let go of it and it drop into that postbox.
Yeah, definitely.
We always finish up asking our guests the same two questions. And the first one we have for you is, if you could be the fly on the wall somewhere in a certain situation, where would that be and who'd be there?
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I'd look at very successful people and think they're special, they're successful, I'm not them. And as I've got older, what I realised is they're just normal people that have just had opportunities. But what they've done is they've become successful. So I was thinking who I could speak to. I was thinking maybe someone like Oprah Winfrey, who early on in her career, when she got rejection and was told she wasn't going to amount to much, I would love to have been in that conversation to see how she responded to that, and also what she did straight after. How people pick themselves up after that kind of rejection and failure and that kind of confrontation. I'd love to see how she managed that.
And I guess because somebody like Oprah's been so phenomenally successful,
Queen Oprah.
We've only ever seen just different levels of success. Even from the earliest days when she came on our radar, she was still incredibly successful. But that would be fascinating to go right back to the very beginning, because everybody suffers with rejection of some sort or other in the early days.
Yeah.
And if you could meet somebody, sit down with a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, perhaps in the cafe below your practice, and looking over the Memorial Park, who would you like to meet?
So I'm going to be really selfish, and I'm going to say my dad. So he passed away when I was 9, and while I can remember his laugh, I can't actually remember his voice, and I'd love to hear his stories from his mouth. So I'd actually be my dad.
Yeah, well, it sounds like he had a fascinating life himself. I mean,
like accountant to watchmaker
in Switzerland.
What's all that about?
It sounds like a real character.
Unbelievable.
That would be a very sweet moment.
And building their own brick wall.
Yes.
Bit of a builder.
Shabnam, thank you so much. You're not short of demands on your time with all the things that you've got going. But I genuinely feel that dentists, young and old, are going to take a lot from this. I think for people who are thinking about setting up a practice, I strongly recommend they reach out to you. It sounds like you're so open in terms of the support you're offering, but just your story for people who are partly on that journey. They're going to take a lot of confidence that you can do it. It does work out. Just keep pushing. You will get there.
And you might not feel you can. I think that's quite cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to say just on today's weather, be careful with your kite flying.
Yes, it's not kite flying weather today.
No,
it's pouring down.
It's
pouring down, yeah.
Windy though. It's nicely windy. Yeah, nicely windy.
Lovely, Shabnam. Thank you very much indeed for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. And wish you all the best and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was really interesting. Thank you.
Come to the practice. I'll take you.
Yes, come and have a look.
Yeah, come have a look.
Thanks a lot. Keep well.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.